Okay, so we're in Unreal Engine now. I've just created a blank third-person template. We've got a materials and a mesh folder that I've just created so that we've got somewhere to import these assets to. We're going to take the NES controller. We want to scroll down here and just make sure combined static meshes is ticked, because we're importing several meshes as one, like that. And we don't need that material, we'll delete that. I'm going to open this up ready to mess with, but I'm going to throw it over onto another screen for now while I'm opening things up. So now we want the materials. And for the materials we want to bring in, just have a look here now. So the base colour for both, the standard and with the sticker. We've got the mix map again for both, with the standard and the sticker. And we've got the normal. So we're going to drag all of these in. I'm just going to create another folder for textures inside the materials folder so that we've got all of these on hand and everything's nicely organised. And then we want a material, I'm going to call this M_NES controller. Okay, and now we want to, I'll just get it set up here so that everything's on the asset before we actually create a scene to render this. So we'll go into the mesh and we'll just drag one of these out. It is only small, so we'll get right up in on this. Okay, I'll just rotate it a bit here, save having moved the camera around just so that we can get this set up. Now, in materials, I'm going to bring this back in, and I could do this by dragging these in, but I don't think I'm going to. I think I'm going to create a parameter for it so we can switch it out easy when we render. So okay, so I'll just move this up so it's a bit neater. And that should do it. That should be enough to just get the texture on there. So now we search for M_NES and slap that on there. Yeah, textured. So let's minimise this, and we've got it on there. So now, if I create an instance from this, we just call this material instance NES controller. We can now switch these out just nice and easily. So I'll pull this onto another screen so that we're able to do that. I'll just bring this back in here. And we're just going to search for material instance. Oh. NES. That's exactly the same, but it gives us the ability to switch that out when we want to. So, let's get a scene set up for this. I'm going to go into File, New Level. I'm going to go Basic. Just take everything in here and delete that. And then we'll get a plane. Center it. It's 3ds Max now. You always get mixed up when I move from one software to another. Let's give it a scale of 30 by 30 on the X and Y. Just give us a nice space, and we can search for a skylight for now, just to get us some basic lighting in there. Oh, and of course ours isn't going to work as it, so we want to change this to a specified cube map and just pick one for now, and we can sort out the lighting. And then we can go to the mesh, and we can throw that in the scene at 0 and get right in there. So now we're going to want a post-process volume. Just zoom out to touch here. I'll get back in on this shortly. And inside this we're just going to search for infinite extent unbound and tick that so that we're affecting the entire scene. Okay, so we want to mess with the exposure settings. We're going to turn metering mode to manual and apply physical camera again. Untick that box there. Now we're going to want to grab a cine camera. Okay, so with my camera selected, I'm going to do Control-Shift-P just to pilot the camera, and that means that I can just get a much better angle on this controller. So inside the camera we're going to change this to a DSLR. Okay, let's have a look at some of these lenses, maybe something like that. And then mess with the aperture. I won't bring it into focus like in this closer area, but maintain some of that blur behind. Okay, maybe even dial this back even further. Right down to the 1.8, which is the lowest setting on, I believe it's the lens that drives that. And then we'll come down into the focus settings if we can find them. Here we go, and we want to draw the debug plane. Maybe even drive that back a touch. No, I think split a difference between the buttons there. And now if we turn this off... that should have worked. Okay, so let's come back to the controller, because we don't want it scaled up. We want to be working in its true size. Okay, now we'll draw this back again. Now we can dial this minimum focus. Yeah, that's more like it. Okay, so following the tutorial, he guides to use a material, create a material for the floor. Oh no, I've just moved. Of course I've just moved. I already set that. Right, yeah, I'm happy with that. We're about where we were. So, as I was saying, the tutorial guide to make a material for the floor, and he uses a couple of textures. nothing too complicated, just using texture, coordinate and tile in it, and then driving the highs and the lows of the textures using scalar parameters. And I may well do that in the not too distant future, but just for now I'm just going to create a material, and I'm going to call this m_floor, and I'll open that up. What I'm going to do is take a 3 vector and plug into the base colour and give that a greyish colour. In fact, we'll give it a vector parameter. And we'll call this colour. Just delete that for now. Plug that in instead. Give this the grey colour, just so that we can change it on the fly as we need to. And I'll get a scalar parameter, and we'll call this roughness. Plug that into roughness. Something like a 0.3 for now, or 0.2 might be better, just for a rough metallic. And then we're going to have another scalar parameter, and this will be metallic. Again, we'll put that into that. The metallic will set at maybe 0.8, gives a nice metallic. Not the roughness to 0.1. Now 0.15. Yeah, that's not so bad. Deal with that. And that should be okay for now. So what I'll do with that is hit save. I'll pull this back over onto another screen, and then I can turn that into an instance. Just realised I never deleted that off the end of this one. And then the material instance we'll throw onto the floor here, and then I can open this up, and if I just pull it over here to show what I'll be messing with. So we've got the colour, the roughness and the metallic, and we can change the values here nice and easy. So maybe I want to change the colour to something like a bluish, and it affects it in real time, so that we can just get the effects that we want. So I'll just cancel that, and like we could up the lower the roughness or up the roughness. Could do the same for the metallic. We can make it more or less metallic. I'll just undo that again. But for now, I quite like this and how it looks, so we'll go with this. Okay, so next we're going to jump back into the camera actor, and we're going to look for grain. Try out some film grain. We'll just ramp this up for now, just so that we can see what's going on. Quite intense, something like that. And we can always drop this back down shortly. And we want to up the texel size a little. Maybe 1.3, something like that. Okay, so now let's dial this right back. And then we'll be messing with the highlights, midtones and shadows. And reduce what's going on with the highlights quite heavily. The same with the midtones. So this is mostly going on where the shadows are. And we don't want it as intense as it is there for the shadows either. something like that, and then dial this back to 2. Yeah. Go even further, we'll try at 1. Try 0.7. I'm not sure if this will be picking up in the recording. It's only a very faint effect, but subtlety's a good thing. So now we'll go into the vignette. Something like that. So now we can jump over into the post-process volume. Add a bit of chromatic aberration. Maybe 0.3, 0.4, 0.3. Just a slight amount there. Okay, so let's have a look down through here. Global illumination. Yes, we want to be using lumen. So we want the lighting quality, the scene detail, and we're going on the final gather quality. We'll ramp them to 4. Okay. Okay, so we want to look for reflections now. Quality at 4. Okay, so now I'm going to grab another viewport, and in this viewport I want to be looking through the cine camera actor. I'm just going to keep this on another screen for now so that I can see what's going on while I'm working on this, but I'll bring this back in once we've finished setting up lights and things. So now we can let go of the cine camera in here and set my camera speed. So now we want to get some light, and I want the rect light. I'm going to take a copy of that and rotate it here. And take a third one and stick it behind it. I'm just using this second viewport to be able to see what that's doing at the asset while I'm moving these. Okay, so now I'm going to take each one of these lights. I'll take this one, maybe give it like a little bit of an orangish hue, something a bit like that. I'm going to take this one. I'm moving these around and I know full well I'm about to pilot them. So this one I'm going to go for like a blue. Then the light at the back I'm going to go for a red. And I might tweak that a little bit shortly, but for now I'm just going to bring this second viewport in so that it's easy to see what I'm doing here. I'm going to take each one of these. I'll start with the orange light. I'm going to go Ctrl-Shift-P, and I can use this now to pilot around. Just going to slow my camera right down, slow the movement here. And I'm using this viewport here just to get an idea of what I want to do with this light. Gives us quite a nice effect. Let's get the red light now. I think the blue would be better behind it, actually. Now I'll grab that blue light. Yeah, something like that. Quite like how that's looking now. Kind of coarse. Sharpen this blue up a bit. I think if we switch back to the orange light, and that's given us a nice cast over there. We don't want it directly on it, it's a little bit too much. At least I feel it is. And what I'm going to do is take the plane and the controller, just set its location. There we go. Just to get it past that grid. Yeah. I'm quite happy with how this is looking now. Jump back into perspective now. In fact, this is this is going to be the one that I want to mess with. We'll possess this again. Yeah, I think I like how I had it before. I quite like this effect. Let's jump back into the camera and we'll adjust this focal distance a touch more. Just to get a bit more detail out of the controller, because we want this just starting to fade out at the back here. And then we can pop over into the post-process volume and we'll look at the exposure again. And the exposure compensation, we're just going to dip this a little, just to get a nice, just a nice effect with the lights that we've put in there. Just dip that exposure some. Yeah, that's looking good. If I can remember where they've moved it to, we just want to get a high resolution screenshot. No, where did they move that setting to? It's the thing, you have one update and you can't find anything anymore. Ah, here. So, I'm going to set the size to 2 just to increase the quality. And capture. And then I'm going to jump over into that. Well, I'll move this screen off here for a moment because I want to open up the material instance for the controller. I'll bring this viewport back again. And inside the material instance I'm just going to switch over the settings that we set up to use the other material, the other textures. And I can take another screenshot. I'll take the asset, just going to rotate it around. Quite like it like that. You can just see my logo on there. It's a little bit cleaner. I'll take a capture of it like that. And then switch these back to not use the sticker. We'll take one more screenshot. And there we have it. Rendering the NES controller in Unreal Engine. I'll close this, in fact I'll keep that viewport open for when I open this project up again. But yeah, thanks for sticking with this guys, and I will catch you in the next videos. Nebula Skull.